Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to XPSTECH. I'm Vineet, and today we are going to check out the latest Fedora release, that is Fedora 34. If you're new to Fedora, it's a Linux distro backed by Red Hat, one of the biggest player in the enterprise Linux market. And Fedora is considered as a test bed for technologies that will eventually make its way to the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Fedora is little different than your regular Linux distro. It's a bleeding edge distro that is made for developers or computer enthusiasts with all necessary tools and applications, and you kind of get a stock Linux experience. Fedora is available in variety of different desktop flavors, but the primary desktop is Gnome, and Fedora gives a pure stock Gnome experience. And Fedora 34 is also the first distro to be released with Gnome 40 desktop. So for Gnome fans, this is the distro to get the latest bleeding edge Gnome technology. And in this video, apart from reviewing Fedora 34, we will check out features of Gnome 40 as well. Alright, so let's start. Alright, now there are two main editions of Fedora Linux, that is Workstation and Server. Workstation is for home computer, and this is what we are going to install. The image size is 1.8 gigs. You need a computer with very basic hardware to run Fedora 34. Any modern processor with 2 gigs of RAM and 20 gigs of hard disk will work. Fedora installation is handled by Anaconda installer, and the complete installation process consists of just 3 simple steps. That is selection of keyboard language, date and time, and partition to install the distro. Once the installation is over and you reboot the computer, you get few more setup options like creating user account, etc. After you finish this and get to the desktop, you get the Gnome Tour app that gives a sneak peek on what's new in Gnome 40. Alright, now let's take a look at the distro in detail. Alright, first let's get to the biggest new change in Fedora 34, which is the Gnome 40 desktop. And this is the vanilla Gnome 40 desktop, straight from Gnome project. Gnome 40 is a massive release with major desktop overhauling, and Gnome is not really known for tinkering too much with the desktop design, and hence it has not changed much in terms of desktop design for a long time. This is how Gnome desktop looked a decade ago, and this is how it looked prior to this latest release. Clearly a major desktop overhauling was overdue, and this time Gnome team did not disappoint at all. Now let's take a look at all the changes. Now there's a subtle change to the top bar. When you click on any element on the top bar, instead of a blue underline to highlight the item is now highlighted by a rounded gray tab-like element. Also, all these drop-down menus like system tray or date and time menu now has more round edges compared to the last release. Now the biggest new visual change in Gnome 40 is a completely new activities menu. The previous activity menu had a dock on the left side and open apps in the center and workspaces in a horizontal drawer on the right side. And this is how the new activities menu looks like. It has desktop with open apps at the center, with dock at the bottom and search box at the top. Gone is the horizontal drawer for workspaces. If there are 2 or more workspaces, then you get a tiny preview of all workspaces below the search box. In the new activities menu, the desktop takes the center stage, and I really like this look. I think it presents all the activities in much cleaner and simpler manner. Also, there's no translucency in the background here. The background is solid dark gray. To show all the applications installed on the system, there is the show applications icon on the dock similar to the previous version. When you click on it, the desktop overview gets minimized to the top and application grid now takes the center stage. All the animations feels very fluid and responsive. The application grid is now a little wider. Now you can customize the app listing by dragging an app icon and placing it in any location you want. Apart from that, the app grid remains the same. Now coming to the dock, like most things in Gnome 40, dock also now has a more rounded corners. There's a new vertical line in the dock to separate favorite apps from non-favorite apps. The other subtle change in the activities menu is the preview window of open apps now also shows the app icon at the bottom. Alright, so these were the visual changes. Now let's talk about the next feature of Gnome 40, which is the multi-finger gesture. Now this provides a new dimension to the traditional desktop navigation in Linux. For me, this is the quickest way to navigate between desktop screens. In Gnome 40, you can quickly go to activities menu right from the desktop by swiping 3 fingers up on the touchpad. Now this will open the primary activities screen. Now if you again swipe 3 fingers up, it will show the app grid. So there's sort of 2 levels of activities menu. To go back to the primary screen, just swipe 3 fingers down and you're back on the desktop overview. From here, if you want to go to the second workspace, just swipe 2 fingers to the left and you get to the second desktop. You can swipe 2 fingers left or right to toggle between desktops. To close activities menu and go to the desktop, just swipe 3 fingers down again and you are back on the desktop. So that was the multi-finger gesture. And these gestures are not just for activities menu. You can also move from one desktop workspace to other just by swiping 3 fingers to the left or right. Now this is very similar to Mac OS multi-finger gesture. Once you get hang of it, your desktop navigation becomes really quick. I think it will definitely enhance your productivity. Alright, next let's talk about the softwares. Gnome 40 brings few changes to some of the softwares. For example, in the Files app, there is a new Run As program added to the right-click menu to run executable files right from the File menu. Another new feature is when you select a picture to set as wallpaper, you get a preview of the desktop with that image. Gnome Weather app has been completely revamped. It now shows a nice and easy bar-like animation to show temperature changes. One for the hourly forecast and one for daily forecast. So these were some of the important Gnome changes that are there in Fedora 34 desktop. Alright, now coming to the Fedora specific softwares. The biggest one probably is the Wayland display server, which is now default display server instead of Xorg. Now, if you look at the Linux distro in general, the shift to Wayland has already begun. Ubuntu and other major distros now comes with Wayland as primary display server, but it is not completely free from issues yet. Especially if you have an NVIDIA graphic card, support for Wayland is still not there. NVIDIA graphic drivers doesn't work well on Wayland. However, as per Fedora 34 release page, the issue is expected to be resolved within the lifetime of this release. If you use an NVIDIA graphic card, this is something you should be aware of. But I must say that it's not a Fedora issue. Any distro which uses Wayland as display server is having the same issue. Alright, now moving from the display server to the audio and video server. The audio and video server has also been changed from Pulse Audio to Pipewire. Now, I'm not an expert in this, but whatever I have read, the change is kind of similar to the display server change. Pipewire does graph-based audio processing, and apparently that is better for professional audio work like podcasting. If you are an audiophile, you can check out Pipewire website to get more information on this. The other change, and again I think it's a big one, is the transparent compression feature in B-tree file system, which is the default file system for Fedora Linux. And as per their statement, this new feature will save around 20 to 40% of disk space, which is huge. Alright, so that was all the major changes in Fedora 34. This has been one of the major releases from Fedora that brings so many new changes. Fedora is not really known for exciting releases, but this time it has been a rarity. If you are a computer enthusiast or a GNOME fan, I highly recommend you give this distro a try. It's a simple, no-nonsense kind of a distro that provides all the latest bleeding-edge Linux-based technologies with the default stock Linux experience. Links to the ISO image, the release blog page, and other information is in the description. Alright, so that was all for today. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you liked this video. If you do, kindly press the like button. If you have any comment, suggestion or feedback, do type that in the comment box. A huge shout out to all the subscribers of XPSTECH channel. Thank you for supporting me. Alright, so thank you again for watching and I'll see you next time.